What is up, everybody? Welcome to Reality After Show. We are covering Australia v. the World, one of the most anticipated seasons of all time, I would say, for Survivor. I've very much been looking forward to this for over a year at this point. I got my co-host here, joined as always by the great star of Deal or No Deal Island Season 2, Phillip Solomon. How's it going, bud?
What is new? It has been such a week since we had our draft picks. We have a new host. Big Brother's going crazy. We're on episode 3 already. There's so many things happening.
All right. And then we got our Reality After Show correspondent, Lauren Pratt. Lauren, what's going on?
What's going on? I'm so happy to be here. We live for this content that we have been given over the first 3 episodes. I could not be happier. We knew big names were going to go early. We knew it was going to happen, but it doesn't mean that they did not deliver while they were there.
Yeah, we've got a lot to get into. 3 action-packed episodes. I mean, this season's going to fly by. It's going to fly by in the blink of an eye, and we're going to be like, man, what a great time we had. And if it's anything like the first 3 episodes we've had so far, I very much so am looking forward to it. Unfortunately, we've had 3 big names already off the board, and we knew going to the season, each week, or each episode, excuse me, is going to be like, oh, no, not that person. But then you've got 8 other people you're looking forward to seeing. But I feel like the 3 that we lost tonight were really big names, so I am bummed to see it happen. One thing I want to get into real quick before we get started talking about this coverage, I do want to share with everybody, sorry if I can fix my settings real quick. I do want to share with everybody, I am starting my Twitch live stream today, and very much so looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's not letting me share. There it goes. All right, so real quick, I'm going to just big screen this. So this is going to be my schedule going forward. We're going to be live streaming. Can you guys see that on your end? I can't tell.
Yes, sir.
We got it.
All right. So this is my Twitch channel that I'm going to be starting immediately after we're done here. So I'm going to go from here, probably take about 10 minutes and start my first ever Twitch stream. You can find me. It's Bobby Goodsby on Twitch. I will put it in the comments below. So you guys can check it out. We're going to be talking about Big Brother live feeds. I'm going to be watching the live feeds, commentating on that. We're going to talk about Big Brother coverage that's from other YouTubers and stuff. I got a couple videos I pulled up about that. Going to be talking Australia v. the World as always, because there's a lot to go into. And then also at the end, if there's time, I want to talk a little NFL talk as well for those that are interested. It's going to be crazy. I'm going to try to be consistent as possible, and my schedule is going to be Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. Pacific time. You guys can follow me at Goodsby Bobby on Instagram and Twitter, and obviously here at After Show, any of my clips from the Twitch stream will be posted on YouTube as well. If we have anything that we like and we want to be posting to Reality After Show, you guys can be able to find it there. And with that, please, guys, if you can, just come join me. Come hang out. Come, leave a comment, subscribe, whatever you can do. I'm just trying to grow, see what happens, and see where this takes me. But anything to, broaden my horizons when it comes to this kind of job and this kind of fun that we have here. So, guys, just come hang out with me so I'm not sitting by myself talking to myself about Big Brother. So look forward to it. Like I said, immediately after the stream, I will go live on Twitch, and I will post that here soon. So with that being said, enough about me. I just wanted to share that with everybody because I'm very much so excited about it. I've worked a lot on it. So, let's get into it. So what do you guys want to start with this episode? Phillip, is there anything that's a hot button issue for you on this first 3 episodes?
Okay, so I think the 3 of us are a really good group to kind of attack at least the beginning of this season. I'm a brand new Australia watcher. I did not watch until after Deal or No Deal Island last year when I was like, so Australian Survivor is a thing apparently. And so I went back and I watched like a couple of those seasons just to get ready for this one. I went back and followed my boy Owen made a Survivor guide, including the international versions. Look it up, use it, because I hadn't watched any Survivor of the older era or whatever else. And I went through the list and it was like, if you want to be prepared for season 50, Australia versus the world, there's a bunch of different views and options. So I went in there and I did that. Owen, if this somehow gets back to you, thank you for your service. Amazing work. Anyway, with that said, I think as a whole, this season is giving us what Winners at War did not, which is great. I think it really is highlighting what every player did well. And what I like to see as far as returning players go is, has their game evolved or have they just gotten older? And I think what we have seen, especially in episodes 1 through 3, we're seeing it with Rachel Riley now on Big Brother. We will be seeing it on season 50 a lot. The idea that once you've played it once, the audience has seen it. The other players, if they're worth their weight in anything, have already done the research, except for Kirby. We'll talk about that later. Anyway, other than that, as a whole, if you do your research, you know their tricks, you know what they're up to. So in turn, you have to refine your game. When King George came back time number 2, the game was elevated. It was refined. He said, I did this well the last time. Now here's how I can turn it up and really make it work. And so what we're seeing in episode number 1 through 3, especially with who gets eliminated, I don't know how much we're spoiling right off the bat, but if your game does not evolve, you will leave because everyone knows your tricks.
Yeah, Lauren, what do you think?
Right on. I agree with Phillip there, because you know you're coming into this big badass season. So you have to not only prepare, but do, as you said, do some research on other people that you're playing against. What did they do last time? What did they do the second time that they may have played? What did they do just the first time? We have some solo people here. So you really have to know and just dive in deep to what they did and how are you going to evolve your own game in turn with how are you going to adapt to how they play their game, and is it going to mix and match with yours? If it doesn't, then you have to figure out, all right, I need this person gone because clearly it's not going to work for me moving forward. So there are a lot of different avenues that you have to go down when you're preparing for a big season and a bold season such as this.
Yeah, I mean, this season is already giving me exactly what I wanted. Now, one thing I want to say is, especially with the Australian tribe, and honestly, we're like 3 days out from the last, or 2 days out from the last episode. If you haven't seen it, we're going to be talking spoilers. So definitely click off this, come back later after you've watched all 3 episodes, because there's no reason at this point for us not to talk about all 3. But the Australian tribe in itself has become very cliquey. And the one thing I've noticed is no one wants to work with King George, right? Like we've come to the conclusion King George was screwed from the beginning. And we kind of thought that going into it. We knew it was going to be a tough sledding for him. But the guy is such a big shield. It kind of shocked me in the way that people wouldn't even want to pick him up as just a number. Literally, no one wanted to work with him. And we see in the World Tribe a lot of moving parts, a lot of action, a lot of people trying to play different ways. I'm really excited to see when that tribe goes to Tribal Council next, how it's all going to play out, because given how it played out, the dynamics in the first episode, we could have a lot on our hands. Either the women are going to take control. Is the U.S. going to get back together? Is the world going to be like, you know what, listen, we can take one person with us and then everyone else we're against? Who knows? So it's really interesting to see the dynamics on the World Tribe play on out. And with the Australian, I feel like it's just very cliquey because they all know each other, right? It's not like the World Tribe where you get a mix of half world, half U.S. You have all Australian survivors that are big names that probably know each other, have seen each other out in the community and built friendships. So there's a lot of different dynamics there opposed to people that you've never met before in the World Tribe. I like both aspects. I really do, because you get what you've always wanted to see. It's almost like a mini All-Stars with Australian. And on the World side, it's basically almost like a newbie season, but with professionals.
Yeah, I think if we want to go back to... Let's go back to episode 1. I think that what is great is that I can tell, I can feel it, I can smell. Also, I was there watching Parvati and David enter this game. I feel like even the viewers can feel like they just played a game because they come in hot from the beginning. The credits roll and David's like, do you want to make a deal? And everyone's always like, oh my God. Like and I will say, in being on Deal or No Deal Island with them, I didn't think I understood it properly, that I was like, why would they want to go back? But like in seeing Kyle and Camilla and all them go play Survivor immediately, I'll tell you, I never felt more prepared to play than on the way home from playing. I was like, if you gave me a call and said, go back next week, I would. I feel like I wouldn't need to preheat the oven at all, and I would just like go. And so you can tell that I do want to clarify some timeline things now that we've seen 2 shows airing. So Australia versus the world, they went out 3 weeks after us. So we got home and it was about 3 weeks in between. What actually happened, I will shed all the light on it. I don't think this is covered in the NDA. If it is, I'm really sorry, NBC. Anyway, so what I will say is the following. So when we were getting ready for our show, Parvati was doing her research. Australia versus the world had already been contracted and signed. She knew she was doing that show after us. And so she was doing her research and learning who the big Australians were. In her research, she learned who the Golden God was. Fast forward a week of sequester later, she walks on to the island and she's like, I know that man. And so in turn, without Australia versus the world, I don't think she would have ever known that man because she was just doing her research to kind of see who the Australian Survivor players were. And so with that said, they both walked in hot and tan. Listen, whether you love Parvati or hate Parvati, her abs were crazy. Let's not take that away from her. She looks phenomenal. Like she does her best work in a swimsuit. We saw her in Traders. We saw her in the winter, the fall. It didn't work so well. She does her best work on a beach in a bikini. That's just her. But I will say there was about 3 weeks in between, and I didn't think that they were going to bring up our show at all. And literally it took 11 minutes before they were like, we were on Deal or No Deal Island. And I was like, oh, there we go. There we go. It's happening. I think there were a lot of, do I think that Suri and Tony knew? I don't know. I feel like to be in American reality TV, like I feel like even at this point, as we stand here right now, the blogs are talking, Twitter's talking. We know who the returners may be on this new season of Australian Redemption. We know because of the internet. So for me, I think that we would be naive to believe that Suri and Tony, being a part of this reality world, especially in America, didn't know that Parvati just played Deal or No Deal Island. So like that, I don't know.
Yeah. Lauren, what are your thoughts?
Well, you went a ton of different directions there, Phillip.
Sorry,
so there's
always,
a lot to
always.
unpack here, obviously. But let's talk about Parvati since we are going down that route right now. We'll start there. The thing for Parvati that I always find fascinating is girl always has it. Always. She finds a way to do it. Even when she's in tricky and tough situations, somehow comes out with it. Let's go down the box route here. All right. I do not blame her for sharing that she had the key because let's be honest, with that many people, it's not a ton of people. It's still enough people. It's really difficult where that box is sitting to be able to unlock it. You need other people to help you and you didn't know what was in the box. So let's start there. Parvati, I've never seen something that close and still found a way. I'm just going to sit on this box and how Tony is such a good game player and he still didn't realize she's doing something right there.
Yeah, as far as Parvati, like she came in guns a-blazing. I think that her and David definitely had a game plan going into this season where coming off Dondi, we're only 3 weeks removed from when they were filming that. And obviously they had a good rapport. Parvati at one point says later in the tribal council that, oh yeah, until he turned against me on Dondi. That's not true. We know that's not true. We know what happened. We know that basically for those that didn't see, it came down to basically a 50-50 and he gave her the chance to play and save herself rather than have someone else play and possibly win and take her down and gave her the chance to save her own life. So it was a 50-50 draw. Both of them knew it. It wasn't that he turned against her. It was just, hey, this is the position we're in. Phillip, you can attest to this. You were out there. Here you go. Your destiny is in your hands, essentially. And she lost, and that was just a 50-50 draw. So obviously she's using that for her game. But when we see David right off the bat talking to oh my gosh, the guy that was voted out first, Rob, thank you. When we see her talking to Rob Mantelay, when we see David talking to Rob Mantelay, and he's like, listen, we need to work together. I think we're going to both be strong threats. I think that we both are winners. We're both good winners. Two of the best winners of all time, in my opinion. I've seen both seasons. Both of them are amazing winners. And I want to work with a physical beast like you. Obviously, that's something that discussed beforehand, where now Parvati's on the tribe with Rob and it's like, hey, David loves you. We should work together. Oh, wait, why do you know David? How do you know David? And that's when I feel like she tripped up a little bit on how she said those things. I think that was maybe a little bit of maybe we're in the early stages and it's been a minute since she played Winners at War, so maybe she's got to get the ball rolling. But I think that was definitely a red flag for Rob, obviously. I feel like if she went in just saying she wanted to play with Rob and didn't mention David at all, I think she would have been in a much better situation with Rob. But we'll get to Rob. Don't get me wrong. That guy played really hard, really fast, right off the bat. But as far as Parvati, she rebounded. She was able to rebound from this initial maybe little hiccup and really control the World Tribe and the game. I think that we're going to see a lot of things from Parvati this season. Now, I don't know what happens, but what I do know is they are showing her a lot, and they're showing her in a power position through majority of the first 3 episodes. So that gives me hope for Parvati's long-term game. Phillip, anything else on her?
Her rebound in episode 1 needs to be studied. You guys, here's the thing about me, like, regardless of how I feel personally, and by that, I don't necessarily mean anything. Everyone's like, you should still be angry. I talk to her all the time, so on and so forth. But still, like as a viewer, to swing that back around and still say, if Parvati Shallow's going to do one thing, she's going to find the biggest man on the block and rip his soul out and end him. And we were like, yep, there we go. Episode 1 done. I was like, wow. Like, even as someone who knows her personally, I was like impressed still. Like, you can't look at that and think that's not good gameplay. The numbers were not on her side. She was an easy out, and still she was like, let's send him home, even though he's the largest man that will potentially help us in every single challenge. And they were like, okay, because you're Parvati. And that to me is crazy. I will say, as someone who knows her, she is one of the most engaging people I have ever met in my life, where like between, I don't know, like if I really look at my show, between Dr. Will and David and her, they have the ability to just like look at you and smile, and you're like, okay, like it's the weirdest thing on earth. And I will say that makes sense in seeing that happen in episode 1. What I will say about my boy Rob is exactly what I said during the draft. He comes in hot, and I don't think you can come in that hot when it is all winners. If you're playing against civilians, I think if he were on something like Deal or No Deal Island, he would have swept with those civilians easy. But because he's playing with other winners, that doesn't work. And if we saw anything in episode 1, 2, and 3, if you try to walk in and strong arm people like you did in your original season, it's not going to end well for you. That is what the 3 of them had in common.
Yeah.
Right?
And to that point, Lauren, I just want to say, like, it's not even just like there are winners there are people that have never won but have played this game 3, 4, 5 times and really know this game probably better than he will ever know, because yes, he won, but he played one time on Survivor South Africa. Not to give away or take away from what he did, but like, we're talking about Suri. We're talking about Tony, a 2-time winner. We're talking about King George, who's, gotten to very close to the end multiple times. There's just not a way to go into this kind of game with a overpowering threat where you're just like, I'm going to tell you what to do and you're going to do it because it's what's right for you, even though I know it's what's right for me. And I think he had the right strategy. The right strategy is to take out the U.S. tribe and take out the U.S. people, because that is the way that he should go. The problem is you're talking about 3 of the all-time favorite survivors when it comes to U.S., and people aren't going to want to take these people out. Like, there's a difference between, and no offense to them, but there's the difference between playing these other versions of Survivor and being a legend of U.S. Survivor, because people watch from all over the world the U.S. version. The U.S. version was an anomaly. It was one of the biggest shows of all time in the early stages. And these people have been on these people's television screens since they were young kids. So, or young adults even. So people have a reverence for these U.S. players that they don't have for the other people that are on the World Tribe. That, yes, it does make sense. We have the numbers. We should take out the U.S. But when you have someone looking at Suri and being like, I love Suri, Suri can do no wrong in my eyes, there's nothing you can do against that. So you have to be able to manipulate your game in a better way than just, oh, we have the numbers, we need to overpower them, because there's so much emotional aspect to the game when it comes to the U.S. players. Lauren, what are your thoughts?
Well, aside from this, Parvati hit the home run, no doubt about it. She crushed it. But if we're talking about Rob here, this is what I compare it to. I compare Rob's game to what Tony did when Tony came back for Game Changers. It just didn't land. What I think Rob benefits from, if Rob ever plays anything again, I think Rob's going to crush it, because Rob's going to learn from this exact mistake and what went wrong. And we see that with a ton of people where they kill it their first time and then they come out and they flame out. But then when they return again, they're a whole new person just because they have now been given the chance to analyze and study. I personally do not think Rob knew what he was getting himself into with these players, especially as you brought up with Sari, for example. Lisa, let's bring up Lisa here. You know, Lisa goes, I know how big of a threat Sari is, but I still want to work with you. And that's what we did talk about in the draft, where I was saying, people got to get rid of Sari because Sari's so good. And then y'all were telling me, but there's going to be someone that wants to work with Sari just because it's Sari. And y'all were spot on with that. But still, the right idea is definitely to get rid of her. I love Sari to death, but look what she's able to do. Someone is just walking right in, coming to you right away. I want to work with you because of your name.
Yeah, I think it really does help us look at the social construct of American reality TV versus international reality TV. Now, you guys know that I watch stuff like this because I love the sociology, the psychology of it all. So I did a little research. I went on social media and stuff. And if you look at even the follower count engagement, we are the only country that makes reality TV personalities celebrities. Like, there are so many Australian players that have like 2,100 followers on Instagram, and like half of those were from the show. And you're like, but you were like a pretty heavy hitter. Like, that would never happen in America. And so because Parvati, Sari, Tony are like, they have such weight with their names, even though they don't have the numbers, it's like they have the invisible clout in knowing that the US game was the archetype before it went everywhere else. So everyone starts with the US game and then they go everywhere else. And so I do think that even though they were given a disadvantage numerically, socially, they have a pretty good advantage. Lisa, poor Lisa. I mean, okay, I can't be mad at Lisa because I played the same game, if you want my honest answer. On day one, I was like, that's Parvati. She's dangerous. I'm going to be her best friend. Like, that to me, I was like, that makes sense, because I was like, I'd rather be on that side of the line than the other side of the line. So that's fair. But I can't wait for her to like have her moment, which I hope she has, or she's going to go home.
So I enjoy Lisa, though, because Lisa is still giving us the bits. Very calm person, might add. When Lisa hears information, all right, cool, sounds good to me. And you can't forget Lisa and Tony at the well. I'm sorry, I was living. How could you not be living for that moment? We were not expecting it, but it delivered. It was there. And it just, I think Lisa's just
the visual of Lisa holding Tony by the legs over that well it's gonna remain in my head forever. I was like, done, easy, cool.
It's perfect. We couldn't have asked for anything better. We weren't expecting it, and it was right there. And I think it's funnier just because it was Lisa and Tony. If it had been anyone else, it wouldn't have hit as good.
Yeah, I mean, to your point, Phillip, like, if you look at like the Instagrams, and that's what I was doing into the side here, of the Australian Survivor players compared to even just people that were on our screen 2 seasons ago, like Gabe Ortiz, who's here with us. Like, it's crazy. Like, Gabe has like 7,000 followers on Instagram. Nothing like crazy, but like, yeah, you see some of these bigger names that got very far in the game, and they're at like 2,000-3,000 followers. It's pretty wild. So this is, you know, Survivor US is a global show, right? Like, we're talking about, yes, us here in America and probably other countries, we watch the Australian version because the Australian version had to kill it, right? They had to take something that was already great and make it their own while also making it different. And I feel like we did that to many extents. Honestly, the Australian version is much better than the US Survivor version. We've
Yeah.
said that for many years. There's still some things I would change, but Australian Survivor is absolutely killing it. And so they have been able to go global, but you see like Survivor Quebec, Survivor Finland, Survivor New Zealand, all those seasons I have never seen. Like I just haven't seen them. And it's something that the US, all these people know who the US is. Like the US is king. It doesn't matter if the Australian version is better. US is always going to be king because it's just been around for too long. It's a giant and it can't fail at this point, right? It tries, but it can't. And the thing is, with this cast, you have three of the biggest names. It's always going to take over. Now, as far as Lisa might be my favorite cast member so far. And I'm not going to lie. Like,
Hot take. Okay.
She's in a prime position. Who's coming for Lisa? No one's coming for Lisa. And if anything, people just want to work with Lisa. Like, I don't think we've seen through 3 episodes one person say a negative thing about Lisa at all. And I'm sure we might get there eventually. I don't know how well her, her fandom for Cirie, is it like the rabid fandom that there are in this world? So, for instance, everyone knows Cirie. And for those that don't know Cirie, as well as the fan community and the people in our community, Cirie is probably the most beloved reality star possibly ever. And that's not really even a hot take. Like, if you ask anyone, there's people that will give a kidney to Cirie if she needed it. Like, it's serious. And I kind of see that in Lisa. Lisa is like one of those rabid fans that I think she would even throw away her game to give Cirie her first Survivor win. Like, that's how I feel. Here's the thing. Lisa's already won. She won the New Zealand version. I'm not saying she doesn't want to win. I just am getting the vibe that she is like one of those rabid fans that will do anything to see Cirie win if she can't win. So I think Lisa could go very far in this game. And I think she can honestly take Cirie as far as she can too.
All right. Well, in talking about America, this is true. We did get Tony for a few episodes, but his edit has been pretty clunky. I would say that they are not positioning him for a win. But what I will say is it is kind of refreshing, hot take, kind of refreshing that they're not really positioning any of the men for a win, which is new. That doesn't happen in America. Like, America shoves the men down your throat, even if they are the worst people you've ever met in your whole life. They would rather have the worst scumbag guy than a heroic female. Even when women have won Survivor US, they started slow, and then we knew that they were going to win because they like had a real good like story at the end, where it was like the last few episodes on the way up. When you look at Dee, when you look at Harry Ann, people like that, you're like, yeah, we were sleeping on them for a while because they just didn't have anything for a while. And so I will say they're not really positioning any of the men to win. Tony, that's hard because he is not only the minority on the tribe being from the US, but then he's the minority of the minority by being a man. And so the numbers are not in his favor at all. What credit I will give him, though, is I want to say it was episode 2 or 3 where he pretty much took charge of the entire challenge, and he knew his name was going to be on the chopping block, so they had to win. He took charge. He did what he had to do. He made sure they won. And I was like, you know what? Okay. It takes credit for someone who knows their back is up against the wall, and they're like, if I'm ever going to perform, this is it.
Listen, I'd love to follow Tony in a challenge. Looked like an excellent leader. Everyone was right there with Tony. What Tony said happened. So I think that was great. What I will say about Tony, I do not think Tony is set up for a win. But I think there could be a bit of longevity with Tony, because otherwise I think we would have gotten more content from him if Tony, for example, were to be going in the next episode. I just don't see it happening, because Tony would have still gotten tons of confessionals. Not a ton, because there's so many confessional-based people that we have on this cast. So you have to spread the wealth a little bit. But I see Tony kind of maybe just having a middle game here. excellent player. I still think it's a smart strategy. Stay close to the beach. That's where Tony does best, staying near the shelter, not frantically looking for anything, but it was fine because everyone else was looking for the key. So that was okay happening then. But Tony was still going back to his strategy on how he was successful at Winners at War.
See, and I disagree with you guys. I think Tony is screwed. I think Tony is done for, especially since we know that both tribes are going into this next episode are both going to tribal council. Now, we don't know how it's all going to play out, but if Tony doesn't win some kind of individual immunity or something to that effect, I really think the women on this tribe are forming something strong. And we saw it. We saw it where basically the two guys were the outcasts. And who are you going to go after, right? If the four women do go together and end up forming this bond and this alliance to go after the men, they're obviously going to go after Tony. Like, no offense to, Team Finland over here, but who's the bigger threat? The bigger threat's Tony. The guy is a 2-time winner. No one's going to let him sniff the end and let him be a 3-time winner. And the guy where he has $3 million, which I still attest, Wu deserves $500,000 of that money, because without Wu, we do not have Tony where he is now as the king of Survivor. All right. So I think that Tony, given the situation at hand where both tribes have to go to tribal council next episode, I think Tony, unless he does something crazy, and don't get me wrong, Tony is totally capable of it. I think Tony is going to be screwed going forward, especially if these women end up pulling together and pulling this out.
Phillip, you have something. I have something too.
I just have an Australian question, so I could ask afterwards.
I just want to push back on one thing. We are talking about Tony here. I still think Tony could figure out a way out of this, because let's be clear, and this is great gameplay from Cass, no one knows about the idol, which is so smart. So they could think, because they know how shifty Tony can be, how good he is at finding and locating idols, that he might have one, and Tommy might just be the safe bet to go home there. That's the only way I think Tony could survive, unless Tony wins individual immunity, which is also a strong potential chance there as well.
Phil, what were you thinking?
Okay, so I just have a question for the Australian Survivor people, the fans. Can you shed some light for me? I have never seen Luke play, but Luke and David seem good. They seem like close friends. What is their relationship like? Is it like a King George Honey kind of deal where like one of them eliminated the other? Like, what is their dynamic? Because I couldn't really figure it out.
No, they were extremely tight. So it was Luke's second season, which was David's first season. Okay. They were constantly having to, crawl their way through the game because they were two physical threats. And they knew that if they, teamed up together and formed a bros alliance, that they could really use each other as shields and work their way through the game. They ended up getting really far. I think they got Final 4 and Final 5. I want to say it was something like that. I know they got very far, and everyone was very sad to see Luke, who was immediately coming off of his first season into his second season, and they really wanted to see him win. Both of them were big fan favorites. Like, they constantly were using idols and doing all these crazy gameplay to move their way up. So it wasn't a Shawnee George situation where they worked together and then one of them backstabbed each other. They were always working together. And then I believe, don't kill me in the comments if I'm wrong this, but I believe David went out and then Luke went out at 4, and then they had the final 3, obviously. And then they were both done. But this is the first time we've seen them play together since that season. So, obviously David went on to play again in All-Stars and ended up winning that season in a completely dominating fashion. And Luke, this is the first time we've seen him again since then. So I think another thing too to say is David came on really late, right? Like, David was not supposed to be on this cast. This cast came out and people that were on this season knew who was on it and were shocked to see David. I think that's why when you see him pull up in the truck on the first episode, you see Luke get in the car and be like, oh my God, what are you doing here? Like, just super stoked. Like, they did not know David was going to be there. And for whatever reason may have caused him to come on late. I have some ideas, but who knows? But they were always a very, very good team. And that's why when you see them together, playing together in this game, those two are never going to turn on each other. One, they know that they're great shields for each other, especially Luke. Luke, you have the greatest shield in front of you. And David, who's never going to turn against you, is one of your best friends in real life. And he's always going to get taken out before you because he is a winner. And then if people know he won $5.8 million on Dondi, he's going to be even bigger of a target.
So now my follow-up question would be, I thought that to be true. Why wouldn't Luke use the idol on David and knowing that like that, although it does get rid of his idol, is more of a long-term investment for like his game and for someone to vote with him? That's what I didn't understand as a viewer.
So what I personally think, I actually don't mind the play that Luke did, because Luke specifically said, I am not telling anybody about this, being very smart, which is Luke is loyal to a fault. And I think Luke this time is, I need to win. I am here to win. I'm going to do anything that I possibly can. Yes, David is here, but we see how Luke can be. Luke is very charismatic. I think Luke is just fine without David, and I'm happy that Luke saved that idol and kept it in his pocket. That's just how I feel about his strategy moving forward. But I think if we're going way back when to when they played together previously, Luke absolutely would have used an idol to save David. Yeah. Luke's just playing a different game this time around.
And here's the thing too. I feel like this is a hot button topic that we need to discuss, because this is something that I feel like the fans are all over the place on. Do you rather keep in the game a number one ally that's never going to turn against you and is a great shield for you, or do you keep the idol? Because I'm of two thoughts. Honestly, I kind of flip-flop back and forth, but I think it's better to keep David than the idol. I really do. Because the idol, one, it'll get back into play and you can find another idol, right? Like, you know that it's been out there, you know it's been found, they're going to replay it. It's obvious that they're going to replay it. So then just go find it again. But to lose David, who one is the biggest guy out there next to Luke, you have that kind of shield. On top of that, you have a guy that's never going to turn against you. That's one of your best friends. And three, this guy has won before, so he's always going to get taken out before you. I mean, he's basically a walking immunity idol, right? Like, no one's coming for Luke before they come for David. So you keep that security blanket in the game. So I'm more of the set that use the idol there, save David, and save your walking idol going forward.
That's a solid point. I think because we are playing, okay, here's the hard part. Because we're playing Australia versus the world and not US versus the world, we are playing an Australian-based game. I think we can all say as viewers that, like, because if this were an American-based game, you keep the idol, because the idols are few and far between. Australia, I feel like they're falling out of the fucking tree. Like, they get a new idol every 10 minutes. So as far as I'm concerned, I'm like, no, get rid of the idol. You will literally trip on one on the way home that night. Like, it doesn't matter. So for me, I think, like, because we are in that Australian framework of the game where there are numerous idols kind of floating around at once, I definitely think that you can play it and know that, like, you'll find another one. Whereas in, like, America, people hold on to them for like a while because there's only, let's say, like one per tribe. And then it's really like, it becomes more valuable.
Can I make one point about the idol though? So you run into this tricky situation. I don't know if it changes the dynamic, but since Luke finds it, Luke tells nobody about it, then finally comes clean. Oh, I do have this idol. How's David going to feel about that? You know what I mean? Think about it that way, potentially.
At least he'll be there. He'll be like, you know what? Okay.
Yeah, no, that's true. At least you'll be there still. But then you're kind of questioning your mind. Well, oh, wait a minute. Took you a while. I thought we were supposed to be like complete bros. So I think there's a couple different angles you can definitely look at it.
Anyone else, I agree with you. I think if this is a normal game of Survivor and you have allies that you never knew 10 days ago, that you never knew these people, yeah, absolutely, that'd be a question mark in your mind. But we're talking about a friendship that has lasted years. Like, they know each other's families. They're best friends on the outside, always, doing things together. There's a difference there. And obviously, David, I feel like, is coming to this game playing balls to the wall, knowing he has nothing to lose, right? Like, he's one of the people outside of maybe Tony who can really just play a game just to have fun and just make it exciting, make good TV without really giving two shits about if anything went wrong. Like, the perfect example is his relationship with Sarah, right? So Sarah is one of his good friends who knew him before either of them were ever on this show. and she backstabbed him in this episode and took him out. And he was like, listen, no big deal. He's like, was it you? Yeah, it was me. She's like, listen, it's fine. Like, no big deal. Like, if that can be okay, and she literally voted for him, if Luke used the idol on him and hid that he had the idol, but still used it on him, I think he's completely fine. Like, if Sarah doesn't get in shit, I don't think Luke would get in shit over using an idol to save him.
I commend Sarah. Let's go, Sarah. You know what? She did it. She came out to play, because I think it is a decent move for Sarah to do that. You're getting rid of a big threat in David, and you're showing other people, yes, I have this friendship here, but I'm willing to play ball with others of you on the tribe to help me progress forward in this game. And I think having that dynamic with Kirby is what Sarah ultimately needs, because she knows that she is not going to be David's number one. Luke is David's number one. So Sarah needs to get a different number one. And that's what she did.
I mean, that is a good transition. My girl Kirby, who I love, I'm obsessed with, honestly. I was reading the Survivor Australia Reddit thread, and someone posted yesterday, they were like, listen, I said Kirby's gameplay was sloppy. Episode 1, I said when it wasn't sloppy, it was non-existent, and she's not playing. I am here to sincerely apologize. I was like, let's go. Give Kirby her flowers. She's here killing it, especially just in comparison to her last season. This is like the third thing for not knowing these players that well. I've clocked from before we started, from like a week ago, where I was like, what Kirby does well. She knows when to talk and when not to. She knows when to just stand there and listen and understand and read the situation before she reacts, which is what we saw that like Rob and David and King George didn't know how to do. And so really, when you're playing with these all winners, it's more about being reactive in certain situations, which I think Kirby's doing really well.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't get it. I don't get why everyone is so obsessed with Kirby. Like Jonny, we got Sarah. They're like, oh, Kirby is my everything. I cannot lose Kirby. I need her trust. I'm willing to throw away a multi-year relationship with David because I need to show my loyalty to Kirby. What? Why? Like, you guys don't know Kirby. Like, yes, Kirby's season was airing at this time, but no one knows how she did, and no one really knows her in the community because you guys haven't had years of knowing this person. I don't understand it. It makes no sense to me. And there is a precedence. Like, we saw it on Heroes versus Villains US, where, you know, we had oh my God, what's his face coming off? Oh my God.
Russell Hance, I think.
I was like, are you talking about Russell?
I always blank on people's names when I come on the podcast. I can be sitting at home, be completely fine talking about 10 seasons ago and knowing every single person. When I come to the podcast, I blank on the names all of a sudden. It's hilarious. Russell Hance, obviously. And we had precedence with Russell Hance on his season on Heroes versus Villains, where he came in and no one knew his game because it hadn't aired yet. And he got obviously very far in that game. There's a precedence for taking this person that is a relatively unknown and using them to align in power with, because no one knows their game. So you can play with that. You know other people's games, so you know what you do and do not like. And that's where I feel like people are attracted to Kirby. Now, I don't get it, because I think that Kirby has a mindset where she's very one-sided and she won't change on her opinion on things. And I feel like that would be a little bit of a unmovable rock, as you would say, to play with, because if they're dead set on one outcome, then there's no convincing them otherwise. But maybe she'll impress me. Maybe it'll change. What are your guys' thoughts on everyone's obsession with Kirby, Phillip?
I was living for her as the godfather in the water, just floating, and people are just like, may I have a meeting, please? I'm like, what is happening right now? Like, this is like these Survivor legends are like, excuse me, yes, hi, if I could just have a seat. And she's like, wait a few, I have one in front of you, and then I'll meet with you after. I'm like, this is crazy. This is crazy. But so, I mean, I love it because I already loved her in her original season. I just thought that like she didn't have the space to play, but now I think she has the space to play. I think she is she is what happens when you go home, study the game, study your game, and you're like, okay, how can I refine it? How can I tweak it? And I think what really drove her crazy, like I think her and King George played opposite games. Her game was quiet and well thought out, and his was loud and boisterous. And I think you can still be successful doing it both ways, but that's why they were never eye to eye, because they just didn't play the same game. So really, my question is, I guess the third time should have been a charm. What was the downfall of King George? And there was a few, but like, what do you believe was the downfall of King George? Let's start with the swimsuit. I'm going to throw that into the area. After that, what else was the downfall of King George?
All right, we're going down the King George route. All right, here we go. So we have to talk about this moment. I'm going to bring it up. The moment where King George and Kirby and David are standing together. I have never seen that before. I don't know if anyone has ever seen that before, but
never.
I don't know if it's a downfall per se, but it was so good that you can't not highlight it. It just, and Kirby's face, this is where I'm giving Kirby credit for, stayed very calm in that situation, whereas I think other people would react it much differently. So I have to give her credit there.
I had a bigger reaction at home than she did. Like that happened, and he was like, "She's right here," and I went. So I don't know how she held that together, but I like audibly had a reaction, like out loud, and so I was like, "Oh my God, this is happening right now!" I was like, "This is the most," and then they just all stand there, all three of them, looking like that meme of the three Spider-Mans, like pointing at each other, and I was like, "This is crazy that this is happening right now."
That's what I mean. She did great in that moment, because otherwise I think people would have had stronger reactions. She played it off as the best you can in that situation when you know, oh shit, I'm definitely out it because I 100% was pushing the name.
Now, as far as King George, let's be real. King George had no chance coming into this game, right? He had zero chance. No one was going to work with him. So he was doing everything in his power to throw everything at the wall and see if anything would stick. So yes, he obviously did something there that no one has ever done and no one should do because it's not a good game move. But when you're King George and you have such a big target on your back and no one's wanting to work with you, make good TV. And all work, the last possible second, if there's nothing that's going to work for you, make good TV and at least be memorable. And I think that's what he was doing. Now, there's a lot of things I need to critique King George on his own gameplay that I feel like were very much so faltering in this season. Let's go forward a little bit to the vote out of David, right? Where he turns to Luke and asks Luke, what are you guys doing? Who are you voting for? And he says, Janine. Clearly, that is not what they're doing. And if it couldn't be any more obvious, these three have been tight from the beginning, Janine, Luke, and David. They are not going to be voting out one of their own. That is idiotic. That doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense for their part. And for him to believe that and still vote Janine, he just had his eyes and his target set on Janine, that it had to be Janine. And so he was willing to do whatever. But even then, even if they vote Janine, Luke, and the Golden God, who else is voting Janine? There's still a numbers mismatch there, so it doesn't add up. So he should know instantly these people are not working with me. They're giving me bogus info. Obviously, they've been saying Shawnee, and now they're saying Janine. None of that is playing out to what it should be. So he should have instantly reverted course and gone with the girls to vote out David. It made no sense. It wasn't a smart gameplay. And from there, by him doing that, one, he went with these people that don't want to work with them clearly. And two, he alienated the side that wanted to work with him, who he threw Kirby under the bus. And even when they were willing to give him a second chance to get out David, he still didn't vote with them. So now they know they really can't work with him. Like, he was just screwed from the beginning, but he also didn't do anything to help himself.
Speaking of not helping himself, can we talk about the Speedo now? Here's the thing. I think that, like, as someone who owns like a few, there's a certain like air about yourself and like how you have to like walk around when you're in a Speedo. You have to like exude confidence everywhere else because you're in a Speedo. And this man walked around that island like he was a toddler auditioning for a Huggies commercial for 3 episodes, and I lost my mind every time. Then I was like, dude, you can't stand like that. You can't walk like that. He literally looked like he was out here trying to get sponsored by pull-ups. I don't know. But like either way, it was crazy. It was crazy. And yet everything I needed out of King George, I was like, you know what? Yes. And I would watch it again.
You're telling me the guy with multiple immunity idols tattooed on his body doesn't make great fashion choices? I mean, I am mind-boggling.
Huggies for 3 episodes. And I was like, he literally is walking like a toddler whose mom is standing there with her arms out. And like, I was like, this is crazy.
But let's be clear. Talk about a man talking confidence and raving about it. And then you have this whole scenario going down. And another thing that went wrong. What are you doing talking to everybody at the immunity challenge? Oh my goodness. You are not on a tribe with them. You are not best friends with them. Clearly, if I'm on your tribe and you're spilling all this information, I'm going to be pissed.
Yeah. I mean, sorry, go ahead, David. All right, Phil.
I think that's what's hard when you play an all-stars season, if you will, because in a normal Survivor season, you don't really know the other tribe that well. So like you keep your cards close to your chest. But at the same time, if you're an Australian Survivor player, don't pretend like you don't know who Parvati and Sari are. Like, so they almost kind of feel like your friends. So it doesn't feel as like the lines are drawn. I think the lines are a little blurry. And I just think that like George played off of that, those lines being blurry. Like, even though he doesn't know them, like he knows them, like he knows who they are. And I just think that like his tribe, I think his misstep was blurring those lines on a tribe that already he was kind of on the outs of. If he were closer with other people, they would know him. They would know he doesn't really mean anything by it. But I think his tribe was just looking for an excuse to get rid of him and send him back in that swimsuit.
One thing I want to go back to right here, forgive me if I pronounce this wrong. Gardy, sure. Luke wasn't sure that it would be David. He didn't think Sarah would vote him off. Now, I want to push back against that because David's name was getting thrown around. And although he might have thought that Sarah was on his side, your whole argument is that, oh, he didn't use the idol because he thought David was going to be safe regardless. You still, when you have your number one ally and it is in question that he could go home, it's one of 2 people most likely that is going to go home, and the numbers keep flip-flopping so much so that you have to pull King George aside mid-tribal council to try to pull him on board or at least misdirect him, then you know that there's a chance that your closest ally could go home. So for that example, I think that it's a little bit one-sided to not think, okay, we got Sarah 100%. She's going to vote with us when she's been preaching about this loyalty thing the whole time. And I understand she promised on their friendship that David was going to be safe, but things change. And this is a game where people backstab each other left and right. If you really thought that it was important to have David in your game, and there was even a slightest question that he could go home, you use that idol on him. And so that's why I think that that point is a little bit mute, just for the fact that there was the possibility and his name was getting heavily thrown around out there.
So do you think, and I know enough American players that I could ask, but do you think that it's a US Survivor rule that they can't go off and have these strat chats at Tribal? And maybe it's my ADHD, but in watching someone respond to JLP while there's 3 conversations happening, it makes me crazy. Like, I can't look at it. I'm like, for me to be answering something and people to be talking all around me, I would stop talking. I'd be like, you guys, we're on a show. And so for me, I just feel like I don't see that in America ever. Like, the amount of like, they make decisions at Tribal, which to me is crazy.
Well, I mean, if I'm speaking and people are talking, I'm getting in the conversation immediately. You do not matter. I need to know what is going on. But let's also talk about that vote out a little bit more, because George almost got himself voted out, as we said, putting down Janine's name. If you are one of those girls in that situation, you have to pretty much assume that George had to have done it because George was part of that conversation with David. Do you then think to yourself, don't like that. He was supposed to vote with us. Am I just going to change my vote now? Because I'm wondering if any of them truly considered flipping their vote in that instant.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know why George did the things he did. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, George played that absolutely terribly. There was a lot of things that went wrong. Back to Phillip singing real quick. As far as like the Matt chat stuff, I love it. I love it when they go and just start scrambling right there in tribal council. I think it makes very entertaining TV. I know people hate it, and I get it, but I think that when you have a game that is so fluid that these people want to be there and they're playing as hard as they are, where they are doing strategy talks at tribal council, I think that makes for really fun and gameplay that you can't really expect, where the show is giving you something, but it could go a totally different way because of the fact that things are so fluid and can change at the mat. And then, sorry, Lauren, I forgot what you asked. What was your question?
Oh, I was asking if you're any of the girls in that situation, do you highly consider changing your vote? Because if you can't trust George to vote the way that y'all talked about previously, what do you think with that scenario?
I think they were just dead set on getting David out, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think that it was like, I think that Kirby put her foot down and said, we need to get rid of David, especially since she was exposed to David from George. That David being in the game any longer than he already has been is a extreme detriment in the game, because now David is never going to work with her because of the fact that that information did get leaked. So she has to get rid of the person that she knows is a solidified person that's never going to play with her.
I just wonder too, just for Sarah's standpoint, that would have been the only opportunity I could see where her vote could have changed, because she could have said, you know what? George didn't do what George was supposed to do, so I'm going to try and do damage control the next day with David and hopefully get back in David's good graces. So I think out of all of them, she could have been maybe the one considering it, because if I'm working with an ally that said they're working with me and they vote completely differently than all of us, I'm going to question, where are we going moving forward?
Agree. I think that it's Sarah. She was going through it. You could like see the emotional like turmoil, the like inner existential crisis that she was feeling. And I think she's smart as someone that is a smaller girl to partner with Kirby. I don't know why Kirby would choose Sarah as her number one and not Jonny, but like, okay, cool, whatever. Either way, I think she's smart to stay there. I will just say, like, as a whole, in getting to look at episodes 1 through 3, it is way more female driven than I think any of season of Survivor we've ever seen, honestly, where like the girls are running both tribes. The girls are running the show. Like, that's what's happening right now. They are making all the power moves and plays. And I think that, yes, it does help that the numbers are in their favor, but also think about every other reality show we've seen. The women have had the numbers more than once and still never took this level of control and power. So like, yes, the numbers help, but also like they're driving it. Like they're taking the guys off one by one. So in hitting like our 1 hour mark, like we are, my question for you is 2 tribes going to tribal next episode. Who are your predictions for who goes home on each?
Go ahead, Lauren. You start us off.
I think, well, obviously the world tribe, I think it's going to come down between Tony and Tommy. I think that's just dead set on there, unless the girls do something crazy and they botch it like the girls did in Vanuatu of Survivor. So that's the only scenario I could see it going wrong. For the Australian tribe, I think that Luke and Janine might be able to pull something off here with the potential idol play, maybe could come into play. I'm not sure. It's going to come down who wins that individual immunity challenge, definitely. But I think we're going to get some spice in both different directions, because you know for damn sure Tony will not go out of that game without a fight.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards, obviously, on the world tribe. I think Tony's 100% a goner. In my eyes, I think that if he doesn't win some sort of immunity at some point, I think that he's done. He's the biggest target on the tribe as far as past wins. He's the king of Survivor, and then 2, he's someone that if the women are working together, are they going to go after Tommy or are they going to go after Tony? I think it's pretty easy. You got to go after Tony, especially for the world women who could use Tommy as a number on their side so they still have the numbers against the U.S. And it's smart. Someone said it in the comments earlier. It's smart for Parvati and Sari to sacrifice Tony to be able to show them, hey, we are loyal to you. We're willing to go after our side, and we're also willing to take a man out. So here's Tony on a silver platter. I think Tony, unless he wins something, is completely done for. And then as far as the Australian tribe, I think it's a little more up in the air. I like what you said, Lauren. I think that it really comes down to, does Luke play his immunity idol, or does he feel like he needs to? Because the numbers aren't there for him. But at the same time, we have seen Sarah's passion to get rid of Shawnee to solidify Kirby as her number one. So maybe she switched sides, or maybe she convinced Kirby, hey, let's go with these other two and take out Shawnee, so that, now I've done multiple steps to show you my loyalty and show you that I am with you. Now you need to give me a little piece and show me what I've given to you. He's like, give me the same respect here and take out the person I feel threatened by. So I think Shawnee could be in trouble, and I'll say Tony on the World Tribe.
Nice. I think that World Tribe, Tony's a goner. I think it's just we're counting down the minutes until we see his graceful exit. On the Australia tribe, I think Janine is going home. I didn't know, and this is as someone that did not watch a lot of Australian Survivor before this, I didn't know that Janine is like rich, like
oh yeah,
rich, like two words together. She owns the Australian version of Jamba Juice. She's like the CEO of that. I was like, oh, she's like rich. Okay,
yeah,
cool.
Yeah.
Like she has like money on money. Yeah. So in turn, I definitely think Janine is next to go because she's on the other side of the line, and because everyone already knows she's already like pretty successful financially. Even though I don't think this game so much is about the money, I think that they will use any excuse to get rid of someone. So I think like that would be it when the numbers are this small. As a whole, though, I'm happy with it. I think this is what is making Survivor fans happy, especially after a controversial 48. I think this is getting us hyped for 49. I guess we have to hit this while we're all here. We've had our new Australian Survivor host announced. What are your views, feelings, and thoughts on this? Let's end it on this instead. Sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
You want to go first, Bobby?
No, go, Lauren. Go ahead.
I just want to put someone in the comment was mentioning about Shawnee's challenge. The upcoming challenge, what we did get in the preview, she does quite well at this and is very good. So maybe she does end up pulling this out because we've seen her be very successful at it in the past. So that is a great point.
Yeah.
In terms of the new host, and I will stand by this, I love JLP with all my heart. I think everyone does. You can't say a bad thing about that man. What I will say, though, if we're talking about moving forward in the progression, I'd rather have Australian Survivor as a whole than nothing at all. So if David is the correct person to put in there as that piece to keep it going, I'm here for it. That is fine, because let's be clear, Australian Survivor brings so much to the table that I wouldn't want to lose it. And if it's having to replace JLP, that's okay. Maybe JLP gets picked up somewhere else. And let's be honest there, people will watch if JLP is hosting whatever it may be.
Yeah.
I definitely think money was a factor here. I think that there was money, and there was as far as I'm aware, I believe that they have new producers on Australian Survivor. So the new producers might want to go in a different direction. Maybe they have a passion for David Jeanette, the golden god on their screen. They wanted to have more of that. I don't know. That being said, I love JLP. I don't think that you're going to get a better comparison to Jeff Probst than JLP. And as much as I love the Golden God, JLP is Australian Survivor. It is not the same without him. And I really feel strongly that this wasn't the correct choice. Now, I agree with you, Lauren. If it was this or no Australian Survivor, I'll take this all day. But if it wasn't a monetary thing, and if it wasn't something to save the show, for instance, then I think that this wasn't the correct choice. And I love the Golden God. I've rooted for the Golden God many, many times. But JLP is so good at what he does. He really knows how to build the moment and take from what people say, like what Jeff does. It's a natural talent. Only a few people know how to do this. And to be able to pull the drama out of the moment, or if you see someone talking in the corner, being like, hey, what are you guys talking about over there? There's a lot of moving parts going on in this tribal council. What do you guys think about this? That's what Jeff does so well, and I think that's what JLP does so well. Does David have it in him to be able to have that kind of commentary and that kind of quick thinking in the moment to keep the show entertaining and suspenseful? JLP, I love you. I think you were an amazing host of this show, and I wish nothing but the best for you. And maybe one day they'll have him back. Who knows what will play out, but I think losing JLP is hard for the fans. No one wanted this. No one wanted to lose JLP.
Yeah, okay, let me think about what I can say / share. Okay, so here's what I will share as an insider. The network knew that they wanted to part ways with JLP because of the numbers and stuff like that. But here's what I will say about Australian Survivor versus American Survivor. So much of American Survivor is on the shoulders of Jeff Probst himself. What I will say is that the Australian players walk in with such good character, energy, and gameplay already. JLP was necessary, but he does more of a wrangling and a redirection than actually being the host himself. Example, like for me, if you look at a host like JLP versus a host like Alan Cumming is his own character. Like he has to already bring so much of his own. And I think that JLP just kind of like redirects the big King Georges, the big other people that are there. So like, I will say that in knowing that there were auditions held to host a show like this, to have a job like this, they definitely had more than one person test for this. And I guess David was the strongest one out of who they saw. Here's also what I will say. In reading Reddit and seeing the comments and stuff like that. Should the Golden God host Survivor? Absolutely not. Should David host Survivor? He'll probably do a pretty good job. And here's what I say. Watch Deal or No Deal Island when he has to not be the Golden God, and the confessionals that you got out of him there, and the compassion and the empathy that he shows to MG and Dixon and everyone, and even me. Like, I will say that. You guys know, if there is one person that should hate that man, it is me. But I'm telling you, once that Golden God facade, he doesn't have that to rely on, and he's just the person that he is in real life, I think you're going to get a good show. That's what I'm going to say.
Yeah, and before we get out of here, just one little part. I have to go back and fix what I said earlier. This is a great point. The Russell comparison isn't really fitting. Kirby season aired before this one was filmed. I got my dates mixed up. I was thinking, obviously, last season, and last season was not the season she was on. So I do apologize for that. You caught me on that one. I do think that wasn't a fair comparison, but I do think that there's slight comparisons in the fact that it is the newest player on this cast from the Australian tribe, and that's out there that people may not have a relationship with, and it did air right before they went out for this. So maybe it's someone they want to work with because they don't have that lasting relationship. No one has that lasting relationship, and they feel like they could work with that person going forward. So that's just to that point. So I want to give them their kudos there. All right, so we're gonna get out of here now. We will come back next week and break down episodes 5 and 6. So I look forward to that. Look forward to chatting with you guys. Now, one other thing before you guys head out. Later on today, we have a huge interview with King George. Jonny Fairplay and I will come on and do exit interview with King George to talk about his game, talk about Australian Survivor. That we should be recording, I believe, at 4 p.m. Pacific time, so 7 Eastern. So if you guys can, definitely come on and check that out. I think we're going to have a lot of fun talking to George about his game and just kind of reminiscing about what could have been. And then also check out Johnny's coverage of the first 3 episodes. He had, who did he have on with him? Eden, and then he had
Miles.
Yeah.
Miles,
yeah,
thank you.
Miles.
Yeah, so he had Eden and Miles on this week to talk about all 3 episodes. So guys, definitely go check that out. It has a ton of viewership. Those videos are killing it on the algorithm. So definitely check that out because I think they went to town on these first 3 episodes. And lastly, like I said at the beginning, right after this, I'm immediately going into my my first ever Twitch live stream. So I'm very much so looking forward to that. If you guys can, please give me a like, a follow, what have you. I'm pulling up the live stream thumbnail now. There it goes. All right. So, guys, here it is. That's my live stream schedule. It's going to be Bobby Goodsby on Twitter. Please go check it out. I would love the support. Just anyone just come in there and chat with me. So I'm not talking by myself. It would be great. And yeah, we're going to be talking about Big Brother, Australian Be the World Survivor, and a little bit of football at the end if there's time. But yeah, please come check it out, hang out with me, and I will be starting that here in the next, 15, 20 minutes. So look forward to that. With that being said, anything else from you guys before we get out of here?
No, we're pumped. We're excited. We're here. We're ready.
I love it. I love it. All right, guys. So we will see you on the next one. With that, we'll see you guys later.
Bye.
My mouse is not working. There you go.